Emma never expected that a simple click on her computer would change her life. It was a Friday night in a small town in Ohio, and the rain outside painted streaks across her bedroom window. She should have been studying for her upcoming exams, but instead she logged into her favorite online game, a sprawling fantasy world where knights and mages fought dragons and discovered treasures. Scrolling through the endless list of players, she noticed a new name, Liam_97. Something about it made her pause. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was boredom. Without much thought, she clicked Invite to Team. On the other side of the world, in a cozy flat in Dublin, Ireland, Liam heard the familiar notification. He raised an eyebrow. Usually he played solo. But something inside him whispered to accept. And so, with one simple decision, two strangers from opposite sides of the ocean were connected. First, it was just about the game. "Watch out, there's a troll behind you," Emma typed quickly. "Got it." "Thanks, partner," Liam replied. They fought together, saved each other's characters, and laughed at their clumsy mistakes. Emma found herself smiling at the screen more than she expected. Liam, who was usually quiet, discovered he was talking more in the game chat than he had with anyone else that week. Hours passed like minutes. When Emma finally glanced at the clock, it was nearly 2 a.m. She groaned. "I should sleep," she typed reluctantly. "Yeah, same. But hey, you're good at this. Want to team up again tomorrow?" Liam asked. Her heart gave a strange little skip. "It's just a game," she reminded herself. Yet she typed back. "Sure." Same time. Same time. The next day, it wasn't just about monsters and quests anymore. They started asking questions. "So, where are you from?" Liam asked between battles. "Ohio." "And you?" "Ireland." "Wait, you're serious?" "That's wow." "Across the ocean." "Yeah," Liam typed with a laughing emoji. "Guess we'll have to deal with the time zones." What began as simple gaming turned into long conversations. They moved from typing in chat to voice calls. Emma was nervous the first time she heard his voice. His accent was warm, lilting, different from anything she'd known. "You sound different," she said, blushing even though he couldn't see her. "Different good or different bad?" he teased. "Different good," she admitted softly. Became their nightly ritual. No matter how busy the day was, they found time for each other. Sometimes they played, sometimes they just talked. Liam told her about his dream of traveling, of seeing the world beyond Dublin. Emma shared her love for writing stories, though she never showed anyone. One night, while the game ran quietly in the background, Liam said, "Funny how I talk to you more than to anyone else here." Emma hesitated. "Same. It feels easy." "Yeah," he agreed. "Like I've known you forever." For the first time, Emma wondered if this was more than just friendship. But distance is a tricky thing. They joked about meeting someday, but both knew it wasn't simple. She was a teenager in America, finishing high school. He was starting university in Ireland. 2 lives, 2 continents. Till every night they returned to each other. The ocean didn't matter when they laughed together at 3 a.m., when Liam listened to Emma rant about her classes, or when she cheered him on through his exams. Turning point came one quiet evening. They had been talking for hours, voices soft with exhaustion. Emma was about to hang up when Liam murmured, almost too low to hear, "Good night, love." There was silence. Emma's breath caught. "Did you just?" she whispered. "Slip of the tongue," Liam said quickly, trying to laugh it off. But his voice trembled. Emma smiled in the dark, her heart racing. "Good night, Liam," she replied, pretending nothing happened. But inside, something had changed forever. That was the night Emma realized their connection wasn't just friendship. It was the fragile beginning of something bigger, something neither of them dared to name yet. And as she drifted to sleep with his voice still in her ears, the thought lingered. How can someone an ocean away feel closer than anyone right here? Weeks turned into months, and Emma and Liam's nightly routine became a constant in their lives. What started as a simple game partnership had grown into something far more personal. Sometimes they would forget to even launch the game. Instead, they'd talk for hours, voices low and intimate in the glow of their screens. Emma discovered she liked the sound of his laugh, warm, unguarded, and often triggered by her sarcastic remarks. Liam, in turn, realized he waited all day just to hear her stories about school, her quirky classmates, or the little details of her day. It wasn't glamorous, but to him it was fascinating because it was her. They began to share secrets. "I hate how everyone expects me to have my life figured out already," Emma admitted one night. "College, career, everything, it's overwhelming." "Trust me, it doesn't get easier," Liam chuckled. "But you'll get there. You're smarter than you think. You don't even know me in real life." "I know enough," he said softly, and Emma's chest tightened at his certainty. There were moments when reality intruded. A friend of Emma's teased her at lunch. "Why are you smiling at your phone? Don't tell me you've got a secret boyfriend." Emma laughed it off, but her cheeks burned. She told herself it wasn't like that. He was just Liam. But deep down, she knew. One evening, during a video call, Liam turned his camera on for the first time. Emma hesitated before doing the same. The screen flickered, and suddenly there he was. Messy dark hair, tired but kind eyes, a shy smile tugging at his lips. "You're real," Emma breathed, her voice trembling. "Last I checked," Liam teased, though his ears turned red. They spent the night talking face to face, both giddy with nervous laughter. For Emma, it was surreal. He wasn't just a voice in the dark anymore. He was a person, sitting across an ocean, staring at her like she was the only thing that mattered. Their bond deepened, but so did the unspoken tension. One night, as they played, Liam's tone shifted. "So, do you ever think about meeting, like, in person?" Emma froze. "I mean, yeah, sometimes. But it's not like I can just hop on a plane." "I know," he sighed. "Just, sometimes it feels like you're already here. Like I forget the ocean part." Emma didn't answer right away. Her heart pounded with an ache she didn't know how to name. Things weren't always perfect. With growing closeness came jealousy. Emma mentioned casually that a boy from her class had asked her out. "I said no, of course. I'm not really interested." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Oh," Liam said, his voice carefully neutral. "That's good." Emma frowned. "You don't sound happy." "I'm fine," he said quickly. But she could hear the strain. That night, after they said goodnight, Emma lay awake, staring at her ceiling. Why did his reaction matter so much? Why did she feel guilty for even mentioning another guy? The next week, Liam let something slip. They were laughing about a game glitch when he said, almost without thinking, "You're honestly the best part of my day." Emma froze, her smile fading into shock. Silence stretched between them. "Did I say that out loud?" Liam muttered, embarrassed. "Yes," she whispered, her cheeks burning. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Emma said quietly, "You're the best part of mine, too." From then on, the air between them was charged with something new, something fragile, thrilling, and terrifying. Every glance at the screen, every late-night call carried the weight of feelings they hadn't yet confessed. But Emma knew one thing for certain. Whatever this was, it was no longer just friendship. And Liam, lying awake in Dublin, staring at the ceiling of his tiny dorm room, knew the same. Question was no longer if they cared for each other. It was, what do we do with this? First, distance felt like a challenge they could conquer with laughter, late-night calls, and inside jokes. But as time passed, reality crept in. The ocean wasn't just water. It was missed calls, mismatched time zones, and 1,000 little frustrations that built up in silence. Emma was finishing her senior year of high school, drowning in assignments, college applications, and parental expectations. Liam was buried in lectures, essays, and part-time work to support himself in Dublin. Their schedules collided less and less. One evening, Emma waited by her laptop, staring at the glowing call icon. Clock ticked past midnight. No Liam. She tried not to be upset, after all, he had exams, but the disappointment gnawed at her. Finally, a message popped up hours later. Liam, sorry, passed out. Long day. Her chest tightened. She typed back a simple, "It's okay," smiley face, but tossed her phone aside. It didn't feel okay. The weeks that followed were harder. Their calls grew shorter, their conversations peppered with fatigue. Sometimes Liam would snap when she asked if he was all right. Sometimes Emma would withdraw, not wanting to sound clingy. One night, the tension boiled over. "You've changed," Emma blurted after yet another half-hearted chat. Liam frowned. "What's that supposed to mean? You don't sound like you want to talk anymore. It's like I'm bothering you." "That's not fair," he shot back. "I'm trying to juggle everything here, classes, work, life. And you make it sound like I'm neglecting you on purpose." Emma's throat tightened. "I just miss you. Isn't that allowed?" His voice softened, but the distance was still there. "I miss you too, love. More than you know. But missing doesn't fix anything, does it?" Silence. Both of them knew he was right. For the first time since they met, Emma wondered if it was all too fragile. Maybe, despite the late nights and whispered confessions, the ocean was winning. She tried distracting herself. Friends invited her out more often. She laughed at parties, let herself get lost in music, even danced with a boy from her class. But when he leaned in too close, her stomach twisted. It wasn't Liam. Could never be. Meanwhile, Liam watched his friends in Dublin go on dates, meet up for drinks, live lives that seemed easier. And though he tried not to admit it, jealousy and insecurity gnawed at him. Did Emma really need him when she had a whole world on her side of the ocean? One night, after days of short replies and excuses, Emma broke. "Liam, maybe this isn't working," she whispered over the call, her voice trembling. The silence that followed was suffocating. "You don't mean that," Liam said at last, his voice hoarse. "I don't want to, but it hurts. Pretending it's easy when it's not. Pretending like the ocean doesn't matter." For a moment, Emma thought he'd agree. That he'd let her go. Her heart cracked at the thought. But then he whispered, fierce and raw, "No, don't say that. I can't, Emma, you're not just someone I talk to. You're it for me. The distance sucks, but losing you would be worse." Tears blurred Emma's vision. "Then tell me what we do." "I don't know," he admitted. "But I know I'll fight for you. For us. Even if it means staying up all night or saving every penny I earn until I can see you. I'll fight." Emma pressed her hand to her mouth, sobbing softly. For the first time in weeks, hope sparked again. Call ended with exhaustion, but also something stronger, a fragile promise. Neither knew how or when or even if it was possible. But they both knew one thing. They weren't ready to let go. Months of saving, planning, and nervous anticipation finally led to one moment, Liam stepping off a plane onto American soil. He had counted every day, every dollar, every hour at his part-time job until the ticket was finally his. Emma stood in the crowded airport terminal, hands trembling as she clutched the strap of her bag. She had replayed this moment in her head 1,000 times, but now that it was real, her heart threatened to burst out of her chest. Would he look the same? Would it feel different? What if the magic vanished the second they were face to face? Flight 237 from Dublin has arrived. Her breath caught. She rose on tiptoe, scanning the crowd of passengers emerging from customs. And then there he was. Taller than she imagined, hair a little messier, shoulders tense as his eyes darted through the crowd. "Liam," she whispered, though he couldn't hear. And then his gaze locked on hers. For a heartbeat, the world froze. He dropped his bag. She covered her mouth. And before either of them could second-guess, they were running. Emma collided into his chest, arms wrapping around him as if afraid he'd vanish. Liam held her like he'd been starving for this moment, his face buried in her hair. Both of them shook with silent sobs, laughter breaking through tears. "You're real," Emma whispered against his shoulder. "You're smaller than I thought," Liam teased, though his voice cracked. "And you're taller," she shot back, pulling away just enough to see his face. His eyes glistened, his grin unsteady but wide. They laughed, and it felt like breathing for the first time. The drive back to Emma's hometown was surreal. Every glance, every brush of their hands felt electric. They couldn't stop stealing looks at each other, grinning like fools. At her house, Emma's parents, nervous but kind, welcomed Liam. They had heard of him for months, but seeing him in their living room, speaking with his soft Irish lilt, was another thing entirely. Emma's mom whispered later, "He looks at you like you hung the moon." That night after dinner, Emma and Liam sat on the porch swing. The cicadas hummed, the summer air heavy with warmth. They didn't need words at first. It was enough just to sit pressed shoulder to shoulder, sharing the silence. Finally, Liam spoke. "You know, I was terrified this would feel different. Like maybe it wouldn't work in person." Emma glanced at him, her heart in her throat. And it feels like home," he said simply. Her breath hitched. Before she could respond, Liam leaned closer. Slowly, carefully, giving her the chance to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met, and the kiss was soft, trembling with nerves but filled with months of longing. When they pulled back, Emma laughed through her tears. "Took you long enough." "Worth the wait," Liam murmured. The days that followed blurred in a haze of shared adventures. They explored her town, walked hand in hand through streets Emma had once thought ordinary but now felt magical. They stayed up too late, falling asleep side by side on the couch while movies played unwatched. One afternoon, they carved their initials into a tree at the park, laughing at how cliché it was. But when Emma traced the letters with her fingertips, her chest swelled with something she was finally brave enough to name: love. Liam's visit was only a few weeks, but every moment felt like a lifetime condensed into days. They knew the clock was ticking, but instead of fearing the end, they held tighter, determined to make every second count. The night before his flight home, they lay on a blanket in her backyard, staring up at the stars. Emma turned to him, her throat tight. "What happens when you leave?" Liam swallowed hard, fingers tightening around hers. "We keep fighting. We save for the next ticket. We find a way. Because this," he gestured between them, his voice fierce, "is worth it. I don't care if it takes months or years. You're it for me, Emma." Her eyes filled with tears. She leaned over, kissing him with all the fear, hope, and love she carried. When she pulled back, she whispered, "Then I'll wait. However long it takes." The stars stretched endlessly above them, the ocean still between them. But in that moment they knew, no distance could take away what they had found. Not anymore. The weeks after Liam's first visit were both the sweetest and the hardest Emma had ever known. Sweet because she carried every kiss, every laugh, every whispered promise like treasures in her chest. Hard because the absence was sharper now, the ache of distance more unbearable after knowing how it felt to be held by him. But unlike before, the distance no longer felt like a question mark. It was a countdown. They had seen the truth. Their love wasn't fragile. It was stronger than time zones, stronger than oceans. For 2 years they fought. Liam took on extra shifts, sometimes skipping sleep to pay for another plane ticket. Emma worked part-time while in college, her savings jar labeled with a messy heart. Every reunion was a miracle, every airport goodbye a wound that never fully healed. But each time they parted, they carried the certainty of return. "I'll be back," Liam would whisper against her hair. "I'll be waiting," Emma would reply. And so they waited. And so they came back. Again and again. The breaking point came one winter, when Emma found herself crying in the dorm bathroom at 3 a.m., phone pressed to her ear. Liam's voice on the other end was raw, exhausted. "I can't keep doing this, love. Not the loving you. Never that. But the leaving. Her heart clenched. Then don't. Silence. Then a breathless laugh. You mean? Yes, Emma whispered, tears falling. Come here. For good. Took months of planning, paperwork, and goodbyes in Dublin. Liam's friends joked he was crazy for crossing the ocean for love. But when he stepped off that plane one final time, carrying 2 suitcases and a heart full of certainty, Emma knew it wasn't crazy at all. It was inevitable. At the arrivals gate, she nearly knocked him over with the force of her hug. This time, there were no goodbyes waiting in the wings. Only beginnings. They rented a tiny apartment near Emma's university, a creaky one-bedroom with leaky faucets and walls thin enough to hear their neighbors argue. To them, it was a palace. Every morning they woke tangled in the same bed. Every night they fell asleep to the rhythm of each other's breathing. Emma studied by the window while Liam cooked simple meals in their cramped kitchen, humming Irish folk songs under his breath. On weekends, they explored farmers' markets, bookstores, and quiet coffee shops, always hand in hand. It wasn't perfect. There were bills, long hours, and occasional fights about laundry or dishes. But each argument ended with the same thing: a kiss, a laugh, a whispered "I love you." One evening, as the sun set over their little balcony, Liam pulled Emma close. His hand shook, his voice barely steady. You remember the first time we talked? Just strangers on a screen? Emma smiled, tears already welling. I remember thinking you had the worst camera angle I'd ever seen. He laughed, pressing his forehead to hers. Then, with trembling hands, he pulled out a small velvet box. Emma gasped. Emma, love. I crossed an ocean for you. And I'd cross 1,000 more if I had to. Will you marry me? Her answer was a sob and a kiss, her arms thrown around him as the ring slipped onto her finger. Yes, she whispered against his lips. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Years later, their love story would live in the quiet moments, cooking dinner together, raising children who carried both their laughter, visiting Ireland hand in hand. The ocean that once separated them became a memory, not a barrier. And whenever they told their story, how it began with a chance encounter online, how it survived distance, doubt, and countless goodbyes, they always ended with the same truth. Love is stronger than oceans. Always.